Oh, hello. You've caught me thinking about what I can order my mum for Mother's Day.
In unrelated news, this week's Friday feature is about terrifying monsters in video games, which admittedly has absolutely nothing to do with Mother's Day, but should, as far as I'm concerned, also have absolutely nothing to do with the RPGs they always seem to be in.
Look, I know Dave is the one who's scared of horror games here at Access, but I'm a close second.
You know, I don't really do horror. Either it's cheesy, in which case I don't particularly enjoy it, or it's absolutely brilliant, in which case I absolutely don't enjoy it. I've said before how the Isaac Clarke in my corner of the gaming multiverse has been standing about in a safe room 1 hour into the original Dead Space for 12 years now, simply because I'm too scared to play any further. I stopped playing PS4's sublime Resident Evil 2 remake as soon as Mr. X showed up, because I couldn't handle the pressure of low-key puzzle solving while hearing him stomp about in the room next door, the gaming equivalent of trying to enjoy an evening of Netflix while living in a semi-detached next to a particularly noisy axe murderer.
So when I'm in my RPG safe space full of mountains and lovely water physics and gentle ambient music,
and all of a sudden I'm faced with some hell-sent monstrosity with terrible tusks and turned out toes and what have you that I absolutely wasn't prepared for because I'm not playing a horror game, god damn it!
Here are 7 of the most terrifying creatures that aren't in horror games, but should be. Mum, you haven't got a mummy shark mug, have you?
No, I have not.
You have now.
Number 1, the Midgar Zolom, Final Fantasy VII. This enormous serpent haunted my 11-year-old dreams with terrifying persistence. It was my Freddy Krueger, the way it slithers across the marshland outside the Chocobo Ranch, blocking your passage across, and immediately begins hunting you as soon as you step inside its territory.
I struggled to catch a Chocobo on my first playthrough of Final Fantasy VII as well, so when I initially made it through the marshes, I did it on foot, which is possible.
But oh so terrifying. You have to wait until the Midgar Zolom is far enough away and cross at the narrowest point, Dover to Calais style, and then just pray. If you time it right, you'll just make it across, the serpent's monstrous head nibbling at your heels as you sprint to safety. There's something about the idea of a mindless shadow that's hell-bent on hunting you as soon as you step foot inside its territory that just, it really gets under my skin.
I get the same sort of feeling when watching movies like The Reef, you know, when you've got a bunch of people stranded in the middle of the ocean.
You know the shark is coming. Maybe you see its fin. It's fast and strong and hungry. You can't outfight it. All you can do is run or swim and then just hope. Bottom line, you could easily make a horror game with the Midgar Zolom as the antagonist. It could simply be called The Marsh or something, and your character has to build a safe house and then gather supplies and resources in the marsh, all the while knowing this thing is hunting you as soon as you step outside.
Please, game developers, if you are watching, don't make this game.
Entry 2, the Lechons from The Witcher 3. These otherworldly creatures have their roots in Slavic folklore. The term Lechon comes from the word Leshy, a mythological forest deity whose attitudes towards humans was sort of dependent on how they treated the natural world.
Quite a high percentage of the NPCs who live in the world of The Witcher 3 are, to put it mildly, absolute scum.
Cursing each other, killing each other, definitely not looking after the trees. And so the Lechons are angry. And when they're angry, they're scary. They plague entire communities of people, stalking the woods with their dead deer skull faces and their creaking wooden limbs, their breath the cold rattle of wind through leaves, melting from view so quickly you can't be sure whether you saw one or whether it was just something in the corner of your eye.
The Lechon is essentially a manifestation of humankind's ingrained fear of the forest, or just fear of the unknown.
They truly are the stuff of nightmares, especially when it comes to actually fighting them. They have the forest on their side, you see. Birds, beasts, the fact they just look like the friggin' trees.
Also, what is it about deer skulls that are just so inherently terrifying?
Or skulls in general, I suppose, but yeah, imagine a horror game like Slender the Arrival, but with this thing hunting you down instead. No thank you. Number 3, Headcrabs. Now, as regular viewers will know, I've only recently played the wonderful Half-Life series, an exhilarating induction that saw Dave guiding me through an entire live stream and then afterwards telling me all about the legendary parasites.
I'd heard of Headcrabs, obviously, but never got the full picture.
So for those of you who don't know, headcrabs are quadrupedal creatures the size of a small dog. This one here is called Lamar, and he has been debeaked and therefore rendered harmless. Normally what headcrabs like to do is leap at your face, attach themselves to your skull via aforementioned beak, and then turn you into a horrible zombie-like creature.
I don't really know what's more terrifying, the quick scuttling or the penetrative mind control.
It's clear where the inspiration for the headcrabs came from. Aliens' iconic face-huggers, sharing a few common traits: the 4 main limbs, the wide, sucky hole where a mouth should be, the skin-crawling instinct to leap out of nowhere into your face. I think it's the fact there's no real intelligence here. They operate purely on instinct. A headcrab wakes up in the morning and there's no breakfast or reading the paper. It's immediately, right, face, find me a face. Where's a face? I want a nice round juicy face to jump at, attach to, and then suck on. Nom, 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 nom.
I mean, there's just no reasoning with that, is there?
They should just be killed, all of them, enticed into a big warehouse maybe, which should then be nuked from orbit.
It's the only way to be sure.
Ah, Skyrim. A game I could play forever and never get bored. It's my comfort blanket, my refuge, my home. I know every town, every cave, every dungeon. Nothing can hurt me in Skyrim. Nothing can surprise.
Oh, I hate frostbite spiders. I hate frostbite spiders.
I mean, they're so perfectly disgusting. The arch in their legs, the way they crawl and lunge. Ugh. Also, I can't stand how they slide down from the ceiling like it's some kind of flippin' spider emergency service. Red alert, arachnophobe entering cave, all on-duty frostbite spiders to the web slides.
I know their tricks now, though. I know to check the ceilings.
And so I'll be in position, bow ready, pinging arrows into their disgusting hairy bodies and watching them fall lifeless to the ground. Oh, I mean, even in death they are disgusting. And have you tried shouting one off a cliff?
Yeah, don't be doing that unless you want a full-blown demonstration of how gross all their legs are.
Just leave me alone, frostbite spiders. Let me enjoy Skyrim in peace. Entry 5, Creepers. Now, when I first played Minecraft, I expected it to be a nice, friendly game. You know, it's massive with kids, encourages creativity, and isn't really about killing things at all.
This will be nice and safe. Maybe I'll play this with my 4-year-old daughter. Yes, I think she'd really... What the hell is that?
It's a creeper, a horrible green stick with a face that will automatically make a beeline for you if it gets close. The worst bit, once they catch up to you, they flash, hiss and explode, knocking loads off your health and vaporizing all blocks in a not inconsiderable radius. Yes, including anything you spent the last few hours lovingly constructing.
The horror of the creepers is very well done, to be fair.
You know, there's the obvious reason they're scary, the creepy face, the scuttly movement, the fact you can't seem to get rid of them when they come after you.
They're like wasps, aren't they? You know, you try and swat them away, and somehow the motion of swatting almost seems to act like extra gravitational pull.
But also there's the fear of everything you've worked so hard for being wiped out. So you panic too, and when you panic you flail about, they get in close and blow up. Also, they are practically silent, so sometimes you won't know they're coming until it's too late. Yeah, and did we mention if they get struck by lightning, they become supercharged? This makes their self-destruct even more potent. I hate them, and they belong in a survival horror game. Entry 6, Mimics. Now, you get mimics in loads of games. Horrible monsters that disguise themselves as useful things like save crystals or treasure chests, or in the case of Prey, bog roll, before bursting out like particularly unwelcome jack-in-a-boxes and trying to kill you.
There is one very specific mimic that gets on this list though, and that is the one in Dark Chronicle.
The happiest, most colourful RPG you will ever play, Dark Chronicle is a game about building things, helping friends, and fishing.
I mean, even the final boss turns out to be a cute little rabbit, for goodness sake.
And yet, the jump scare you'll get when opening a treasure chest and finding one of these inside is off the charts. You know, we're talking that bit in the car in Haunting of Hill House levels here, especially when it happens the first time, because you just won't be expecting it.
And then after it's happened the first time, you'll be creeping around these really welcoming, beautiful dungeons like it's flippin' Silent Hill or something.
Shut up, music, with your high fantasy whimsy. I'm terrified here. I've got a bunch of treasure chests to open, and open them I have to, because what kind of reprobate leaves treasure chests unopened? And one of them could be a mimic. Honestly, if you think wondering when Nemesis is going to burst through a wall in Resi 3 is bad, try playing Dark Chronicle.
Sometimes you even get giant mimics, which are basically just heart attacks in a box.
Bleh, they say, ruining your day with their horrible eyes and massive blue tongues, leaping about uncontrollably and forcing you to clamber inside your ride pod to take them out. Go away, mimics. I hate you. Our final entry is probably the least scary creature on this entire list. Why leave it for last then, you might ask? Well, I feel the jump scare this thing gives you when he first appears provides enough scares for an entire trilogy of survival horror games.
It is honestly the worst jump scare I have experienced in video games ever.
Because you're just not expecting it at all. You know, if this was Until Dawn or something, you know, an actual horror game, you'd at least be prepared for something to jump out at you. But in Batman Arkham Knight, gliding around Gotham's rooftops,
which is essentially Batman's equivalent of Resident Evil's safe room, you know, the sky.
Nothing else comes up here. Nothing can punch you or inject you with anything nasty, and then, out of nowhere...
Flippin' heck. Broken the mic now.
Man-bat. Not, as you might be forgiven for thinking, a bat that's been bitten by a radioactive man, but a man who spliced human DNA with that of a bat in an attempt to cure deafness, has inadvertently turned himself into this.
You've got to feel for Kirk Langstrom, really. In a world where this sort of thing often results in superpowers,
Kirk gets this. And then, for shocking us, he gets a wallop from Batman, although there is no punch hard enough to pay for that jump scare. So there we go, 7 terrifying creatures that aren't in horror games, but Flippin Well should be. Let us know in the comments if you can think of any other examples. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Click the notification bell to stay up to date with everything on the channel, and we'll see you again next week for another Friday feature. Thanks for watching.
For the players.